Hi guys, this is Larilyn with House of Akoti Design. Welcome to the channel today. It's been a while since I've done a sew along. Today I'm doing new look. It's N6791. I will be sewing view B, the bustier top, as well as view C, the skirt. All right, so let's get to looking at this pattern. First thing I pull out is the actual pattern instructions, and I start with the cutting layout. I want to direct your attention to the marquee that's here. It's important that you pay attention to what's the right side of the fabric versus the wrong side, as well as the right side of the pattern itself that's faced up, and the pattern piece that's printed side faced down. And looking at the fabric key, this is consistent with the right side of the fabric, the darker color. And again, the white is consistent with the wrong side of the fabric. So that's one thing to pay attention to. Now, when you look at the lining portion over here, the lining pieces, and I'm only pointing this out even though this is for top A, it's the same pretty much for both tops. They're actually using the wrong side of the pattern on top of the right side of the pattern of the fabric. So you want to really make sure you're paying attention to that. So what do we need to sew views top B and skirt C? So we're going to need pieces 3, 4, 5, and 6 for the top, and interfacing is going to be piece 7, which I think is the shoulder strap here. And then for the skirt on the back view C, we're going to need pieces 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And just make sure you're paying attention also to what's the right side of the fabric versus the wrong side. This is on the fold here, so that's right sides together. Okay, so what do we have next? We've sewn both of the side back pieces to the back. And the directions then states with right sides together, you're going to stitch the front to the back at the sides. And you're going to stitch the front to the back at the right side seam, leaving the left side seam open. So here I am with my right facing me. So we know that this is going to be the opposite. So if this is my right hand, this is going to be the opposite. This is the left seam. This is my left hand, so it's going to be the opposite here. This is the right seam. So I'm going to place the left on top of the right. And again, the directions state with right sides together, we're going to leave the left side open. So this is going to be the side that's left open. I'm going to pin this side and I'm going to stitch it closed. Okay, so here's a view of the front sewn to the side front, and we're going to do the same thing for the back. You're going to take your center back piece and you're going to match the notches on the side back to each of these pieces here to the back, and you're going to sew that on each side, right sides together. Okay, so once we've decided how to lay these pattern pieces out, you want to cut those pattern pieces out based on the cutting layout for the bustier top, the fabric, as well as the lining, and the same thing for the skirt, which are cut in panels, and your front and your back waistband, and those will be interfaced as well. Okay, so once you're done with sewing your center front to your side fronts, your side back pieces, and the back pieces, okay, that's going to be symmetrical. You're going to do the same thing for your lining piece. And I'll then sew the lining right sides together to the front piece, flip that out, and attach the shoulder straps for the next step. All right, so I have my seam allowance at 5/8 of an inch, and I'm going to begin the stay stitching. front sewn to both side fronts, center back sewn to both side backs. So the next step, according to the directions, would be to sew right sides together, the front and the back. We're going to stitch the right side all the way up from the bottom to the top, and on the left side we're going to stitch the left side seam from the lower edge, and we're going to go 2 inches below our notch. So again, the zipper is going to be on the left side. We're going to stitch from the bottom of the left side all the way up, stopping 2 inches below the notch where the zipper is going to be. Okay, we're moving on to the skirt portion, and what you have in front of me here is the actual front portion. This is the side front and the side front, and we're going to stitch both of these sides down at the 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we're going to do that to both sides. And typically, again, I don't sew over my pins, but for demonstration purposes, to give you the best view. Okay, so I've got my 5/8 seam allowance here on the sewing machine. Usually you can mark it by pen, or if you have the foot plate that marks it for you. And of course, move your pins as you go. And I'm going to sew along this edge of the shoulder strap, along this edge of the shoulder strap, right sides together, turn it out, and you'll have the finished shoulder strap as I've shown earlier. Okay, I'm starting with the right side, of which I like to set the sewing machine to a basting stitch just to test the fitting. If it's a little too loose or a little too tight, it's at this time I could pull those basting stitches out and, you know, just make my seam allowance either larger or smaller. So I'm at a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm just going to put in some basting stitches to test it and see what the fit's like. And now I'll be moving on to the left side of the skirt, putting in those basting stitches as well. I have marked where the first notch would be here, and according to the instructions, we're going to stop stitching 2 inches below that notch, and this is where the zipper will go in on the left side. And if you forget, it's on the same side as the split. Okay, so moving on to the shoulder strap, you have a facing piece or a lining piece and your face fabric. You're supposed to cut 2 of each, and basically you're going to sew those right sides together. Sew up this side, sew up this side, turn it out, and this is what the final piece looks like. So with my shoulder strap, I thought after putting it together, I was like, looks a little costumey, but I think it's going to be cute. If I don't like it, I'll probably start over, but according to the pattern, there are dots on the shoulder straps you're supposed to mark to match the dots on the actual bustier. However, I want it more of a customized shoulder strap. I don't like it to be too loose. I don't like it too tight. So what I did was on the actual bustier, because it's supposed to be placed between the front and the side front, and also between the side back and the back piece. Basically, I just measured out and pinned where I wanted it to, where it felt good on me here. And again, place it on the other side, pinned it, tried it on, and then that was more customized for me. So that's the shoulder strap, and that's how you sew it. And next, we're supposed to layer the seam. So again, we have right sides together. Taking my shears, I'm gonna go in and cut off about probably about an eighth to a quarter of that seam allowance on each side. And then once I'm done, I'm gonna turn it right side out. Okay, so I have my lining placed on the inside. And I also have the waistband. I'm going to make sure your notches on the waistband lined up with the notches on the skirt front and back. And I've marked center back and center front, as you can see as well. And I'm going to stitch that all around at the 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And after that's done, I'm going to insert the zipper. And you can see that I actually fold my lining in along the sides where the zipper is going to be. And I'm going to actually, again, like I said, stitch my lining by hand. I prefer to do it this way. I think it's a cleaner finish for me. And then once that zipper goes in, I will use the second piece of the front and back waistband to use as a facing, so there's a clean finish on the inside. Okay, so onto the lining portion. Everything's been sewn together, the center fronts to the side fronts and center back to the side backs, just like on your main fabric. I then have the lining right sides together with the face fabric here, and I'm going to do just a regular 5/8 of an inch stitch around the waist, and then I'll be inserting the lining by hand. So once that waist is sewn, I usually flip everything to the inside and sew the lining by hand. I did not follow the directions here on the instructions for the lining. Okay, next up, we're moving on to the lining portion of the skirt. We're going to take the center front. We're going to put right sides together with both of the side fronts and follow the 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, so this is just a little glimpse of the vent I finished by hand here. I've serged the hem of the skirt here. I'm just gonna do probably about a 1-inch fold up for the hem. And my lining, I did not, again, do according to the pattern instructions. I just inserted it by hand. So once I'm done with the hem, I will finish off the lining hem and the skirt will be completed. And essentially what you're doing is sewing the lining the same as you did for the skirt portion. And remember, where you had the large circle, you want to stitch all the way up to the large circle, down to the large circle, and stop and back stitch, because that's where your split's going to be. So you've got to include that in the lining section as well. Okay, so once I've sewn the waistband on to the skirt, this is the second portion of the waistband that's going to be the facing for the inside. So I go to the bottom edge of the waistband, which is basically the side that's going to be facing inside. That's not attached to the waist. So let me back up. This part will be attached at the waistband. This is the part that's the facing, that's downward inside of the skirt that faces your body. Okay, so now that I've thoroughly confused you there, hopefully I have not, I'm gonna fold in about maybe a 1/4 of an inch, and I want to stitch this down. Sometimes you can also do a rolled edge, but I'm just gonna fold this part in so that it's a clean edge on the inside of the skirt, if that makes sense. And I'll show you once I'm done. And remember to back stitch when you get to that 2-inch mark below your notch. Okay, so once you've done that 1/4 inch turn or fold in and stitch, this is what the bottom would look like. So this is sewn to the top of the waistband, and you'll have that clean finish on the inside. Okay, and next you're going to pin the waistband's right sides together. Again, you should have those notches marked from before, and you want to make sure that you start with either the front waistband or the back, depending on which one. I have the front of the skirt facing me, and I've marked the front F so I'm not confused. I'm going to stitch this all the way around, making sure that your seam that you have here is lined up with the facing seam, and you want to pin that as well, and you're going to do that all the way around. And then you'll do a 5/8 of an inch stitch around the entire waistband. Usually you layer the seam again to trim that seam allowance down, turn that over, and then you'll have a nice clean finish on the outside as well. Here's a quick demo of how I make the eyelets with the grommet machine. I'm gonna take this portion of the eyelet, gonna stick it through the hole of the fabric, and face up, you wanna place that over the die of the eyelet machine. You're then gonna take the second portion, concave down, place it over the opening, and with all your might, you're going to press down. All your force. And that should give it a nice tug. There you have it. Grommet machine with the eyelet. Got a few more to do. And of course, there are no shortcuts here. All hand sewing, stitch by stitch, to get those awesome haute couture quality finishes. Okay, here the bustier is at the stage where I have the front fabric and I have the lining sewn. I'm actually going to do a double fold here, about a 1/2 inch at each of the back corners. I'm not doing a zipper. I'm just going to do a corset type back. So you're going to finish the bustier however you choose, whether you're going to do a zipper, whether you're going to do, snaps or the eyelets for the corset back. I will be doing that. So once that comes in like this, I am going to put the little eyelets here, probably about 6 of those. And then of course I'll do the lace up here. So with the bustier, you're going to finish the back, as you choose to. For the bottom portion, I'm going to probably just do some, base those edges together and do some bias binding to close that part off here. And that's pretty much it. And then I will come back and show you the finished piece. And of course the arm straps, I will go in and put those in as well. According to the instructions, you left an opening at the top here, of course, on the back. And you're gonna sew that in either by hand or with a stitch. You can see my fingers in there. So your arm strap can get in there, so you'll have a nice clean finish for each of those. And I'll be back to show you the finished product. Okay, so here's a quick look at the bottom of my hem. I just have to go in, and I probably will finish this by hand as well. That's the facing. So you can see you've got a clean finish from the inside. And I did not do a zipper. I just did 2 clasps on the side here, something quick and easy, only because I quickly did the lining by hand and did not feel like opening that up. When you do the zipper, you're supposed to put the zipper in on the face fabric and then close the lining on front if you're going to do it by hand, and then basically fold the insides of the lining against the zipper and sew it in as normal. But I close it up overzealously, so I'm not going to reopen that. So just to get a quick closure, I just did a clasp. So that's just an alternative option if you are taking the lazy way out and either don't want to do the zipper or you actually forget by moving too fast. But anyway, the skirt's pretty much done at the hem phase, and I'll give you a quick look at the bustier top. Almost done with that too. And this is just some last minute top stitching on the bottom of the corset. I did a closure with a band, and that will be it.
before I move on to the lacing.
Hey guys, it's Larry Lynn of House of a Coty, just working on this cute little corset top here. And what do you do to get couture quality finishes? Of course, you've got to get your trusty needle and thread and get to hand sewing. And of course, there's really no secret, just in and out, stitch by stitch, all the way around. Let me know in the comments, guys, do you enjoy hand stitching? Or is it just a tedious and necessary task to get those awesome final finishes? Hey guys, so I'm finally done with the corset back. This is just a little tribute to all the pretty girls who wear pink and this Barbie craze that everyone's doing. So I cashed in on it, made a cute little pink corset with a corset tie-up back. Isn't it just a doll? Look at the front. I'm just loving it. I've got a little skirt to go with it, and I'm going to put the finishing touches on that, and I'll be sharing that later too. But I am in love with this cute little pink Barbie corset top. Keep watching, guys, for the final reveal of the set. Bye.